China just announced that they would detain any foreign nationals found trespassing in Chinese waters, which is basically any waters they claim, which is the entire South China Sea. Do you think they're actually going to do that?
Well, I certainly hope not. I don't think they will just go around and catch people. After all, the South China Sea and West Philippine Sea is just a vast expanse of waters. And even if they have just the largest ships and the fastest ones, there's just too many vessels out there, not just Chinese, but Filipinos and all other nationalities. So I don't think they'll be able to implement it the way that they're presenting it. No, what it does do is give them some kind of allegedly legal basis in case they do decide to carry it out against a particular vessel or crew that they find somewhere there. So I think that's the real purpose there. It's just to give them that reserve reason or argument that they can use anytime.
So, I mean, we've seen Chinese Coast Guard vessels spraying Filipino fishing boats with water cannons. You don't think they would escalate that by then just doing a performative stunt where this Filipino fisherman is in Chinese territorial waters and they just nab up the crew?
Yes, that is possible. It's like a demonstration, especially if there are going to be a lot of other Filipino vessels in the area. They've actually done similar things before, like ramming Filipino vessel, for example. They've done it in Scarborough, and that scared the fishermen. And that's why fishermen now, whenever they see Chinese Coast Guard vessels or even their maritime militia vessels, they get nervous and they try to stay away. So that's how they were being eased out of the West Philippine Sea.
Yeah, I remember it was in 2016. We hitched a ride on a Filipino fishing boat to go to the Scarborough Shoal, and they're the Chinese Coast Guard in the distance. But yeah, that boat had been sprayed with a water cannon.
No,
a
they had
couple
been
months
rammed.
before. They were rammed.
They were rammed.
But the
by, like,
captain
one of
didn't
those
tell us.
Zodiacs.
The
Yeah.
captain didn't tell us until we were already out at sea. And then we're like, wow, like I can't believe you're courageous enough to take us
I
back
couldn't
to
believe
this
we were
area.
stupid enough to go out there. So one of the things I've heard is that there have been some Filipino fishermen who have vowed to retaliate against China if they do essentially kidnap Filipino fishermen by themselves kidnapping Chinese nationals. Do you think they would actually do that? And do you think that would actually be a deterrent to the CCP?
Well, I don't think that the fishermen will actually do that. I did see the news item where there was one fisherman who was quoted as saying that. But well, just this morning, I was with another group of fishermen, and they got asked the same questions about possibility being arrested. Uh, they did not mention any kind of retaliatory action, but they did say that they will continue to fish anyway. They will not be deterred by such kinds of actions from the Chinese, because after all, what they're doing is they're fighting for their livelihoods, uh, and so that kind of activity against them will not be enough to keep them away from pursuing their livelihoods.
So that's interesting. The Filipino fishermen clearly see that China is the bad guy here, because I know in a lot of situations the CCP will try to manipulate people who are being affected, for example, the Filipino fishermen, by saying like, oh, well, if the central government just was more cooperative with China, then you could fish. You shouldn't be mad at us. You should be mad at your government.
Yes, and they've tried that for quite a while now. But even the fishermen know that that situation is not acceptable. Because they used to have the freedom to fish in these areas without any kind of condition, without any kind of interference. And now, years later, what they're seeing really is that they're not being allowed. They're being prevented from fishing. And what is of more concern is that in the past year or so, China has actively been uh, making fishing more risky for them, financially and physically. Financially, I mean, what I mean by that is that China is going out and destroying the fish aggregating devices that they use to try to catch fish beyond the shoal. No? And they were only forced to do that. They were forced to resort to these devices precisely because they're being denied access to Scarborough Shoal, which used to be their main fishing ground. But now China is destroying even those devices. And China has also been actively preventing them from even just taking shelter on the shoal during inclement weather, forcing them to go home even if they haven't caught anything. And they've also been basically intimidating our fishermen by showing their presence, even while the fishermen are just on their way to where they want to fish. So it's really a situation where the fishermen see that it's really China that is the problem. And the government, what they've asked for the government is simply just some support, even just mere presence, really, to give them some sense of safety, at least, or so that they would at least know where to go to in case the Chinese Coast Guard or militia do something against them while they're at sea. So that's really the situation as they see it.
So, I mean, China claims the entire South China Sea, and in particular, they've been very aggressive against the Philippines in the Second Thomas Shoal and the Scarborough Shoal. Uh, what do you think the CCP's? What is the purpose of what they're doing? Like like we know they want to claim all of this territory, but do they really think that spraying Filipino fishermen with water cannons? What does that accomplish for China?
What it accomplishes is that it diminishes Filipino presence in that area. Before all of this flared up, really, it was our fishermen and their presence that enable us not only to exploit our resources, but also assert our rights and jurisdictions to these resources under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Their presence, however, is inconsistent with China's perceived security needs. No? What they're doing here is first and foremost for only for military and strategic purposes. It's not because of environment. It's not because of resources. Those are all secondary to China. When it comes to the South China Sea, they simply want to secure it and turn it into a Chinese lake, essentially, over which they have absolute control. And so, smaller countries like us, even though we have legitimate resource interests in the area, they don't care about that, and they will destroy our resources if they think they need to, which is what they did when they started building artificial islands in the Spratly Islands. That shows that they really don't care about resources or environment. Their primary consideration is military and strategic, and that is directed against primarily the United States, no? Whom they see as the potential adversary, and they are so insecure about their coastal area, their southern borders. So they believe that they have to really dominate the sea areas around them in order to keep the U.S. away as much as possible from their supposedly vulnerable coasts. And that comes at the cost of also dominating and subordinating all the surrounding nations that happen to be there.